News.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. An event later this week celebrates the monarch butterfly and other winged insects and also calls attention to the decline of the graceful, colorful creatures. Utah's Monarchs and Other Winged Insects Festival will be held this Thursday from 4 p.m. to dusk at Nibley Heritage Park. On KVNU's For the People program this past week, organizers Dr. Gail Morris of the Southwest Monarch Study was joined by Rose Dutson and Becky Yeager. Dutson explained the purpose of the festival.
We're doing this because we want to bring awareness for monarch conservation in our valley. We have a good population up here in our valley, but the monarchs are in decline pretty seriously. So we want to keep getting the word out that we need to protect them. But we also want to support other winged wonders. You know, fireflies, which Firefly Park is adjacent to Heritage. And so you can stay the night or later in the night and then go and check out the fireflies as they're blinking.
Dutson said the fireflies are at the peak of their breeding season right now. But the festival also celebrates dragonflies, bats, birds, all winged wonders. Dr. Morris said as far as monarch butterflies are concerned, it's not really known why their numbers are decreasing.
And that's part of the conundrum of what we're trying to learn to do. And so by providing good habitats, which both Rose and Becky are excellent at giving ideas of how to do that, with the milkweed you just mentioned, you're providing the opportunity for them to be able to breed and have that population of theirs expand.
For more information, search for Monarchs and Other Winged Wonders Festival 2021 on Facebook. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear skies, overnight low around 60, 61 degrees, and then sunny and quite warm around 97 tomorrow. Mostly sunny and lower 90s, around 92 on Wednesday. We've been in the 80s today, just like yesterday. Yesterday's high was 88, and that's where we've been this afternoon. Right now, 88 degrees at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by the Lawn Doctor. Win the weed battle in your lawn. Call the Lawn Doctor and keep dandelions, thistle, clover, and morning glory at bay. 753-LAWN or go to LawnDoctorCacheValley.com.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. A 50-year-old inmate at the Box Elder County Jail has died after reportedly experiencing drug withdrawals. Jail deputies allege that Thomas Johnston was experiencing detox symptoms on Saturday and was transported to the Brigham City Community Hospital. He was admitted and treated but died about an hour later. In a press release, Box Elder County Chief Deputy Dale Ward said Johnston was arrested Thursday on outstanding criminal warrants out of Box Elder Justice Court. The misdemeanor warrants were for drug possession. The Brigham City man was booked into jail. At the time of booking, jail staff received notification that Johnston was experiencing detox symptoms, withdrawing from controlled substances. He was housed in an observation cell for continuous monitoring by deputies and medical staff. Ward said at approximately 11 o'clock Saturday night, Johnston notified jail staff that he could not urinate and he did not feel well. He was checked, and after a discussion with medical crews, he was transported to Brigham City Hospital, where he was admitted. Around midnight, his condition worsened, and he was pronounced dead a short time later. Johnston is the second Box Elder County Jail inmate to die in the past 6 months. In December, Gary Gomez of Tremonton was pronounced dead after being found lying on the ground. He had suffered a medical episode. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office invoked the Critical Incident Protocol after Johnston's death, and the Northern Utah Critical Incident Team was notified. The death investigation is being conducted by the Cache County Sheriff's Office. And a candidate running against Liz Cheney in next year's Republican primary has visited an effort in Arizona to cast doubt on last year's presidential election. State Representative Chuck Gray says he visited the partisan audit taking place in Maricopa County on Monday. President Biden beat Donald Trump by over 10,000 votes in Arizona. The audit seeks evidence for the conspiracy theory promoted by Trump that widespread fraud cost him re-election. Cheney tweeted last week, "The Arizona effort is an attempt to subvert democracy." Gray says Wyoming's lone congresswoman doesn't want the truth to come out. KVNU News Time is 5:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Have you been suffering and you can't find any answers?
I actually suffer from depression and anxiety. I also have had severe IBS problems. I actually had gone into a different doctor of mine because I thought maybe I was starting to go through menopause and had problems sleeping, and I wasn't resting well, and just everything felt wrong.
Red River Health and Wellness can help.
I am now back at work. It's easy. I get through things effortlessly at work, and it's been a life-changing for me. I'm sleeping better at night. I have full energy all day. I don't have those slumps where I need a nap. It's been amazing. It's been a good journey for me.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively, and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER to schedule an in-depth consultation absolutely free. All appointments can be done remotely by FaceTime, Skype, or phone.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Prices start at only $65.
Adams Wealth Advisors has a team covering all aspects of your financial life. Expect specific guidance from advisors that adhere to principles of honesty, professionalism, and integrity. Adams Wealth Advisors has over a decade of service, earning the trust of the individuals they proudly serve.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirt and gritty. Bend down, isn't it a pity? Doesn't seem to be a shadow in the city. All around.
Welcome back to KBNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Monday, June 21st. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And I don't know if you want to call this a fight or a game of pass the buck or just confusion after years of changes back and forth when it comes to statute. But currently some cities, the Utah legislature and the governor's office are, I'm going to go with playing a game of pass the buck. Cities saying that due to dry conditions and concern over the upcoming fireworks-oriented holiday, they would like to be able to ban fireworks in at least more areas than they can, or more completely than they can, and they say statute doesn't allow them to go further. The governor's office is also saying that they would like to at least keep a statewide ban on the table, especially for the upcoming 24th holiday, but the legislative action has limited their ability to do so. The legislature, on the other hand, is saying this is up to cities and counties and the governor's office. And the debate is, okay, who's right here? Is it impossible for cities, counties, or the governor's office to actually invoke a fireworks ban statewide or in larger areas than what the state has already done with unincorporated areas and state lands. The cities and the counties and the governor's office say yes. And again, the legislature says, well, they're not really saying they disagree, but they're saying still it's up to cities and counties. So if they can't do anything, why say it's up to them? And if they can't act because the legislature, a body that we know likes to consolidate power every chance they get, if the legislature has consolidated that power for and reserved it only for themselves, then they need to take action. And they are saying, well, no, we're leaving it up to cities and counties and the governor's office. So we'll talk more about that, what the statute actually says, and how this might be resolved eventually soon. To start things off here, though, this hour, speaking of the drought, speaking of fireworks, speaking about dry conditions out there, it is worse this week than last. We knew that was coming. It's going to be worse next week than this, and no rain in sight for a long time. Reservoirs already low as the warm temperature months hit us due to low snowpack. It is actually worse in other states. Reservoirs in Southern California, they're actually pulling houseboats off because they won't be able to in the next week or so as water levels continue to go down. The Colorado River in southern Utah and Lake Powell, I don't remember in my lifetime seeing it this low from some of the photos that have been sent our way. This was a big part of the governor's weekly or monthly news conference for June, and he spoke specifically to the drought, to what they're seeing, why he called it the worst in 75 years, and what the state's doing, what we can do. Here is Governor Spencer Cox at this month's monthly news conference addressing the drought situation.
Just a reminder that we are still living in a desert, and we are in extreme drought or exceptional drought in virtually every part of the state. I saw yesterday that I think Alta has received 0 rain in June, and that's in 2012 they received a trace of rain to this point in June. And those of you that will remember 2012, we had some of our worst wildfires ever, and that's what we're talking about this year. With 100% of the state in drought, 90% categorized as extreme drought, and 70 to 80% as exceptional drought, which is the highest drought level possible. Utah's drought conditions are worse than most of us have ever seen in our lifetime, and 2020 was the driest year on record and one of the hottest, and so this has led to record dry soils. Our snowpack was also very limited, topping out at 81% statewide, much lower in some areas, a little higher in others, and peaking 10 days early. So together with the record dry soils and what little runoff we have received, streams statewide are flowing at less than 50% of normal for this time of year. A dry April was followed by a dry May with less than 1/2 inch of precipitation accumulation in valley locations. And as I just mentioned, June being even drier than that. All of this means less water is getting into our reservoirs. As of June 1st, statewide reservoir levels are 15% lower than last year, which were already lower than the year before, with 21 out of 42 of our largest reservoirs below 55%. Conditions do vary across the state. Some reservoirs are doing okay, but others will definitely run dry this season. Now, we don't know how long this drought is going to last. That is out of our control, but what is in our control is how we respond and what we do as individuals, families, businesses, and institutions to conserve water anywhere we can. Our best hope for now is for all of us to start acting like we live in a drought-filled desert. Deserts don't have a lot of green grass, and so we're encouraging people not to water more than twice a week and to let your lawn go yellow. Lawns are very resilient and will rebound next year. So reserve your landscape watering for trees, shrubs, and flower beds. Set your lawnmower to the highest setting, and consider replacing grass in your parking strip with xeriscaping. You can find more ways to be water-wise at slowtheflow.org. We are taking the same actions and precautions at the state level. As we've mentioned already, I've issued 3 emergency declarations ordering state facilities to limiting water to twice per week, turning off sprinklers on windy days, fixing leaks. We really want to lead by example. We've also asked our local governments and other business communities to join us in these conservation efforts.
The legislature weighed in as well after the monthly news conference. Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, in an op-ed in the Deseret Tribune published today, said the legislature was taking a lot of the money that was given to the state through the federal government aid package passed by the Congress in the first few weeks of the Biden administration, the second large aid package. Some of that money had some very flexible strings attached to it, and Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, said they would be using some of that money here in Utah to put towards infrastructure, fixing leaky pipes, beefing up other water conservation development projects, things like that, and that $280 million had already been set aside for that and would be going out via grants starting next week, he said. But both the Speaker of the House, Governor Cox, reiterating that this is going to come down to us primarily, and by us, that does mean agriculture as well. The governor spoke to that during this month's monthly news conference and said, in agriculture, we can't expect those homeowners alone to stop watering their lawns more than twice a week and call that good enough. He said in agriculture, steps are going to have to be taken too, understanding that livelihoods are on the line. There is some flexibility, and the state can help. During the monthly news conference, Governor Cox also took a second to talk about the state's COVID-19 situation. Vaccination rates continue to grow, though they've slowed. We've gone from 20,000 a day to about 6,000 a day over the last month. We're still less than half of the state vaccinated. 70% is the goal. Instead of hitting that by July 4th, which was the federal government's goal, mid-June was Governor Cox's goal. All that blown up at this point. Utah probably won't hit that 70% vaccination rate until, at this rate, August. Governor Cox said that is not acceptable.
That is still our watchword. We just need people to get vaccinated. Here's what cases are doing in Utah as an update. We've seen a small increase and a plateau now. We had seen cases get down into the low 200s at one point. We're now back up to about 270 to 280 cases. That has remained our rolling 7-day average has remained pretty steady over the past week. It looks like our rolling 7-day average today is at 280. But the good news is that, as always, vaccines work to protect us, to protect you, and protect all of us from variants that we're seeing. Just a few numbers. I'll share the breakthrough numbers with you right now. Of the 1,013 total breakthrough cases that we've had, 1,013, we've had 108 breakthrough hospitalizations and just 3 breakthrough deaths. Since March 23rd, when vaccines opened up to everyone 16 plus, there have been 28,233 total COVID cases. So if you're doing the math there, that means that basically 97% of them, 96.8% of them have been unvaccinated people. Also, there have been 1,625 hospitalizations, which means that 95.2% of them were unvaccinated. And there have been 113 deaths, which means that 98.2% of those deaths have been unvaccinated.
That was, again, Governor Spencer Cox speaking at this month's monthly news conference with the governor. He did get questions from the media and the drought, fireworks bans, this game of pass the buck that I've been telling you about, with cities and counties saying the state won't allow them to ban fireworks, the governor's office saying the state restricts their ability to make a statewide ban a thing, the legislature kind of pretending none of this is true, saying, well, we're leaving this up to cities, counties, and the governor's office, although statute makes the cities and counties right. They aren't able. Anyway, we'll talk about this game of pass the buck, why it's happening, and why people are panicking a bit over this, thinking that a statewide fireworks ban, at least by the 24th, is going to be necessary, and everyone claiming they don't have the power to put one in place. It's interesting. Governor Cox spoke to that. We'll get to some more highlights from this month's news conference with Governor Spencer Cox right after this here on KVN News for the People.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Paul Danes by calling 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Every Saturday morning at 9, you get information to prepare you with retirement solutions for the journey ahead. It's Smart Money Ascent with Clayton Alexander of Teton Wealth Group.
How do we solve that number one fear or that number one concern? Make sure you never run out of money.
And Teton Wealth Group's Ethan Miller.
Then, when you leave Teton, when you leave our offices, you're going to have a plan that you're both excited about.
It's where your retirement questions are answered. Smart Money Ascent, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. This is, it's been really strange to watch this play out. That's all I can say. But playing out it is. There's this little pass the buck game happening right now. And I probably shouldn't say it that way because it implies some sort of nefarious intent. And maybe it's just confusion. Maybe there is some sincere lack of clarity because statutes have been rewritten and changed, back and forth, almost every year for the last 10 when it comes to fireworks and the powers of anyone not in the legislature. Maybe that's where we should start. Our legislature is a very jealous and power-hungry body. We've known this for decades. It probably predates even that public awareness or noticeable evidence of the last few decades. But our legislature likes to consolidate power into itself. So anytime they can take something from the governor, take something from cities and counties, take something from citizens via the ballot initiative process, anytime they can justify taking that and making it their decision, well, our legislature can't say no. And disappointingly, voters have given them the power to do even more of it via ballot questions, constitutional amendments, and more. So it's where we're at. We can change it, but that's a conversation for another day. Where we're at right now is the legislature basically calls the shots in the state of Utah, even though there are supposed to be these, co-equal branches here in Utah at the state level, and even though lawmakers like to talk a big game about local control, they usually only mean it when they're talking about the federal government and them. They don't really apply it on downward unless it's politically convenient to do so. And so what you get is a state government that oftentimes functions a lot like they claim the federal government functions themselves. So that's where we're at. And again, changing that is a conversation for another day. Where it's bubbling up today has just been so. Over the weekend, you had a couple of different events. One was in Salt Lake City. One was in Utah County. The announcement today from San Pete County about stage 2 restrictions. So these, a handful of events where basically you have a mayor or a prominent member of city council or a commissioner, county commissioner in the San Pete case, and they're stepping up to a microphone because they're doing their job. They're trying to make sure that the public hears about this, so there's public awareness. And they make some sort of an announcement regarding, either a fire or fireworks restriction, or in this case of today's announcement, raising the southern part of the state to stage 2 fire restrictions, which basically means no campfires at all. And in all of these events, from mayors of small and large cities to the commissioner today, one thing that's been repeated is we've done all we can. The state won't let us go further. So when they have responded to residents who have said, why are we seriously considering fireworks in some of these areas? Now, as Governor Cox said in the audio you heard there, like with the reservoirs, there are areas where maybe it's not as big of a risk, to say the least. And so maybe a statewide ban on fireworks for the 4th of July or even the 24th, maybe that's not a good approach. So I kind of have found myself siding a bit with the legislature, saying when they've said, look, we're going to leave this up to cities and counties. I thought, okay, that's maybe a good idea. Because some areas, fireworks maybe won't be that big of a risk. Other areas, they shouldn't even be thought about. And let the cities and counties hash that out, working, of course, in coordination with the state and the state forester and the governor's office and even the legislature if they choose, so that they're informed and have the latest information. But what I didn't expect was what's happening today, which is so during a couple of these press conferences, I think it was the mayor of Provo. I could be wrong about that. I know it wasn't Salt Lake County. It was in Utah County. But a mayor at one of these press conferences said, look, in some of these areas, fireworks should not be used. They're talking about, I think, Harriman out there on the hill and, close to the area that military usually starts on fire at least once a year themselves. And just on the other side there. They're talking about Harriman, and they said, yes. Someone said, why is there not a fireworks restriction in place in Harriman? And they said, well, it's not unincorporated or state lands. And they said, well, if the residents want it, why is the city unable to impose a complete fireworks ban, or why is the county? And the response was, we don't have that power. Only the legislature does. The governor's office had previously said, when it comes to a potential statewide ban, the same thing. We don't have that power. Only the state legislature does. So recent changes to statute have consolidated this power to the state legislature. But interestingly enough, what each individual state lawmaker has been saying in interview after interview after interview is we're going to leave it up to the cities and counties to decide on any fireworks bans. Last week, Governor Cox said there will not be a statewide fireworks ban because the governor's office doesn't even have the power to put it on the table due to changes to statute over the last year or two. And again, the legislature, now this is why I say it's maybe unfair to imply any nefarious intent, because this could be individual lawmakers who don't know. Maybe they think cities and counties can do this, not realizing they've taken that power away from them recently. Maybe there are some who do know and just want to pass the buck. Maybe the cities and counties, some pondered this morning, actually have the power and they're passing the buck, trying to blame lawmakers. So I got curious and I looked into it. And here's what I found. The cities and counties are right. The legislature has consolidated this power into and of itself. Only the state legislature at this point can sign off on a statewide fireworks ban. And how would they have to do that? Emergency session, extraordinary session, the governor calling a special session, basically tens of thousands of dollars in cost to the taxpayer so that the legislature can meet and debate and pass a bill that would institute something like a statewide fireworks ban if necessary, or to authorize change statutes so that cities and counties can do it themselves. That's what it would take at this point. Now, whether or not that's a good idea or a bad idea, I'll leave up for debate. It definitely seems to be showing signs of being a bad idea right now. Again, with lawmakers saying individually, leave it up to cities and counties. If it's conditions warrant it in a certain city, then by all means ban fireworks within your city. But then again, statute approved by these same lawmakers says cities can't do that. That only the legislature can do that. The governor's office can institute a statewide fireworks ban. Only the legislature can do that. And yet again, legislators individually out there telling the press, no, just let's leave it to a local decision. They know, or they should know, they haven't left this to be a local decision. They've consolidated this power to themselves. And I'm hesitant to believe this many lawmakers, and thankfully none of them from Cache Valley, But a lot of lawmakers from other parts of the state, I'm hesitant to believe this many lawmakers don't know that just 2 years ago they banned cities from banning fireworks. It seems like something that at least a few of them would remember before they go out and say, oh, we're leaving this up to a city decision. We'll see how this gets resolved, but cities and counties, I tell you, getting the best of lawmakers on this one, both online and off, and maybe it's deserved because, again, maybe it's intentional. We'll see how it plays out. Either way, I'd say don't expect a statewide fireworks ban. The governor said it should still be on the table, especially as we assess conditions in between the 4th and the 24th. Things are going to be worse by the end of July than they are heading into it. And so the governor's saying it should be on the table. We may have to consider it. It's being recommended already by some very smart people and experts in both firefighting and forestry. And so it should be on the table. Whether it gets put back on the table by the legislature, we'll see. On the other side, the Supreme Court today opening the gates on paid college athletes. Stealing a topic from our friends across the hall at the Full Court Press, but one that has public policy ramifications left and right. How could this impact universities like USU or U of U? What might it mean as far as state funding for those organizations? How far can student athletes go in making a buck off of their student athlete career? Which, by the way, I'll just full disclosure, I think they should be able to. But how far should they go? This gets pretty complex. But again, the Supreme Court today saying in a unanimous decision that college athletes can make money off of their athletic career as students. We'll talk about the decision and the potential ramifications on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Extreme drought has brought abnormally high temperatures across the western states this week, and normally temperate Utah has not escaped the sizzling heat. With temperatures rising well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, many experts wondered aloud if the state's power grid could withstand the stress. Recent problems in Texas and California were cited in a study presented to the Utah Legislature's Public Utilities Energy Technology Committee. The report found that the state's power provider might not be able to avoid blackouts in a period of extreme heat. Christine Cruz is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service office in Salt Lake City. She says the forecast is not optimistic.
We had a temperature of 107 in Utah in this Salt Lake City in this stretch, and that ties our all-time high temperature record. Those temperatures are normally in July. This has been almost unprecedented heat for June.
The report found that when Utah sees summer temperatures like its neighbors in Nevada and Arizona, its grid does not have enough spinning or reserve capacity or the interconnectivity to keep the lights and AC on in an extended heat wave. Jeff Busan is Climate Program Manager with Clean Energy Utah. He says urban planners need to better account for climate change as they build the state's towns and cities.
This is the climate decade. What we decide to do now in the 2020s is going to dictate what kind of future we want to live, what kind of climate change future we want to live in.
Busan says officials need to help Utahns do a better job of preparing to deal with extreme summer heat as well as winter's cold. A small plane crash that killed 2 people also sparked a wildfire west of Salt Lake City. State fire officials say the fire south of Grantsville torched less than 1 square mile as of Sunday. The crash happened last Thursday night when a small plane went down in Tooele County near Rush Valley. It was not immediately clear what caused it. The National Transportation Safety Board says 2 people died. Their identities were not immediately available. And less than half of nursing home workers in Idaho have been vaccinated against COVID-19. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services say that 47.5% of Idaho nursing home workers were fully vaccinated by May 30th. The agency says more than 82% of residents are vaccinated. The Post-Register reports that Idaho had the 17th highest resident vaccination, but 15th lowest staff vaccination rate among states and territories. About 38% of Idaho's 2,100 COVID-19 deaths are linked to long-term care facilities. Of all COVID-19 deaths in the state, 93% were among people 60 and older. KVNU News Time is 5:40.
Did you just build a home or remodel your current home? Well, if so, John at the Duct Hunter says you should have your heating ducts cleaned as soon as possible and change out to a high-quality furnace filter. The dust from construction, sawdust, drywall, and more is sitting in your ductwork. Your furnace filter's probably clogged. You'd be surprised what John has found in air ducts, toys, construction debris, and rodents. Let the Duct Hunter clean the ducts today. Call for a free consultation. The Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, low around 61, and then sunny and hot around 97 tomorrow, mostly sunny and lower 90s on Wednesday. It's been to 89. It's 87 degrees right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Building. Steel is stronger, more flexible, and more dependable than wood, masonry, and concrete. Plus, steel is often less expensive. See their work online at northernsteelbuilding.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
Attention homeowners! You may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift concrete raising and piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift concrete raising and piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Want to cut your cooling costs this summer and save money? Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning to schedule a free evaluation of your system and get their preseason special. With a highly efficient York air conditioning system, you can save up to 50% in energy costs while enjoying more consistent temperatures throughout your home. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272 or stop by our showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
If you live in the south end of the valley, no doubt you've noticed the historical Hiram Granary taking an important role in our new Cache Valley Bank location. I'm Catherine Buse, branch manager. Keeping in touch with our history while looking to the future is part of Cache Valley Bank's mission. Hiram is Cache Valley Bank's 7th location in the valley. Join us for food and giveaways as we celebrate our Hiram branch grand opening June 26th. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
The way you water your lawn makes a big difference. Water restrictions and water costs have both increased over the years. Lawn Doctor is excited to introduce a new service that keeps your lawn green and healthy while watering less. One application of our new HydroGuard service reduces your water frequency by up to 1 day a week, saving you water and money.
Watering help, fertilizer, weed, and pest control. Call Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, at 753-LAWN. Follow them on Facebook or go to lawndoctorcachevalley.com.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. Happy spring. I love this beautiful weather, but if you struggle with CPAP, you may not be getting the sleep you need to go outside and enjoy it. Fortunately, now there's Inspire, a sleep apnea treatment that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Learn more at InspireSleep.com. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, the Supreme Court has cleared the way for college athlete compensation. This is a complicated one, so we're going to have to spend some time kind of breaking it down, this ruling, because college athletes could already make some money in various ways, but now, and this doesn't mean they can make a salary either, this ruling announced today, but it does open the doors to that. Could have some really far-reaching ramifications. We'll talk about that in a bit. Before we get to that, our final segment to dedicate to the drought, wildfire conditions, concerns over upcoming fireworks-oriented holidays. The governor saying just minutes ago, actually, that if it were up to him, the entire state would go to stage 2, meaning no campfires or outside burning at all, unless it's in your backyard. And even then, be very careful and smart about it. So that's where we're at. Senator Mitt Romney jumped in on this. Not intentionally, I'm guessing. Just the timing of all this happening here in Utah today. This pass-the-buck game between cities and the governor and the legislature on who can and can't institute a fireworks ban. The answer, again, by the way, cities can, but they have to follow some strict guidelines laid out in legislation that don't allow it yet, even though it's probably a good idea. The governor can't do a statewide one due to statute, and the legislature is pretending they didn't write the rules this way and not interested in going back into special session to change it. So that's where we're at on all of this. And, of course, overshadowing all of this, something I talked about a little bit in Hour 1, is the state of our forests, the amount of fuel that's out there, how far a wildfire that got out of control on us could burn, which is, by the way, here to California or as far north as Yellowstone, just jumping gaps here and there. A mega fire is a potential possibility, Senator Mitt Romney said today in a press event. The press event to talk about legislation he and other senators have joined together to introduce to try and deal with this issue of the state of our forests. Here's what Romney had to say at this event here in Utah today.
We've had a lot of fires already in Utah, and thanks to the work of the men and women in the fire departments that we're seeing here today and others around our state, the great majority of those wildfires have been kept to under 10 acres, but now and then they get away from us. And as you know, some 40,000 acres have already burned in Utah this year, and a lot more are likely to burn in Utah this year. Hopefully not here in Draper, but our state is dry, and we keep seeing bigger fires and conflagration that is daunting and dangerous. Lives have been lost, structures have been lost, businesses have gone out of business because of fire. And we keep doing things the way we've done them in the past without recognizing that the world has changed. It's getting drier in the American West. Our state's getting drier. The fires are becoming bigger. The loss of life is more significant, and continuing to do the things the way we've done them in the past doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's the reason that Senator Kelly of Arizona and I have introduced a piece of legislation to create a commission which will be focused on mitigating the effects of fires and preventing them from happening and getting them out when they begin, so they don't become the kinds of conflagrations that lead to loss of life and structures. So what are we going to do? Well, we are going to have some federal folks involved. We'll have the Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of the Interior, as well as the head of FEMA. They'll oversee this commission. It consists of some 25 people. 8 will be from the federal government with expertise in dealing with matters of this nature, and 17 are going to be from local communities and states. Not all in the government, some outside of government, but it's bringing together experts in how you mitigate circumstances that could lead to fire, how you can put out fires in a hurry so they don't become major conflagrations, and how you can respond to fires after they've occurred. So it's an attempt to say, well, frankly, we can learn from some others. The folks in Australia did this. They put together a commission and said, what can we do differently than we've done in the past to recognize that the climate is changing? It's getting hotter and drier. How do we protect our lands and our people in this new circumstance? So this group is going to come together. They will work for a year. They've been tasked in a number of areas. One, how to prevent fires, how to get them out faster. One is to take an inventory of our aircraft, for instance, and to decide how many more aircraft do we need, of what kind. Helicopter, fixed wing, where should they be stationed? How should they be called upon? These are the kinds of issues specifically they're being asked to address.
That was, again, United States Senator Mitt Romney speaking today in Draper about legislation he and Senator Kelly have introduced, or will be introducing, rather, in the coming days and weeks. And it's a multi-pronged approach. Setting up a committee, basically, is not a new idea. And some sort of scoffed at this. I don't know. It can't hurt. That's my take on this. So Romney and his legislation would set up a committee, 8 representatives from the federal government. That would be, people I would assume from national forests, national parks, those who had vast experience when it came to maybe FEMA and federal funding for firefighters, people like that. Then 17 people would be from states and local communities. And as Romney said, not everyone from government in that group of 17 that make up this 25-person committee. And then their job would be tackling these issues. How do you prevent wildfires in general? How do you best fight them once they start? How do you in general? And what Romney's saying here is this committee, their purpose would be acknowledging that it's been years since we updated any of this, including, as Romney mentioned there at the end, aircraft inventory. No one's ever sat down and said, all right, how many firefighting aircraft or how big of a crew for firefighting aircraft do we need in the American West right now? He said no one knows because no one sat down and actually talked about that. So that's just one example of what he hopes this committee will do. You can watch the full, nearly 20-minute press conference, by the way, on Romney's Senate website. You can also see a 10-minute version of the press conference that you heard just a little of there on the senator's Twitter account. I've linked to both on our Facebook page. On the other side, what has the Supreme Court done? Either a good thing or a really, really bad thing. I lean to the former. Many others, though, lean to the latter. Decision today, unanimous decision by SCOTUS, basically saying, well, college athletes, they should be able to make a buck. More than they currently can, at least. We'll talk about the decision and how it came down right after this.
This is Rod Hammer, Cache County Fire Chief, asking for your help. Due to current and forecasted weather conditions, coupled with the record dry vegetation and extreme fire danger throughout Utah, the state forester has determined that measures must be taken to prevent the ignition of forest and rangeland fires. Therefore, pursuant to state law, the following acts are prohibited until rescinded by the Utah State Forester. No open fires of any kind except within established facilities, in improved campgrounds or day-use areas on public lands, or in permanently constructed fire pits at permanent private dwellings served by pressurized running water. No smoking except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. This order affects all state lands and all unincorporated private lands within the state of Utah. Violations of this order could be punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $1,000.
The Lyric Repertory Company is proud to return this summer with the presentation of 5 hot shows and 2 cool venues, featuring regional premieres of All the Way, the Thanksgiving Play, and the world premiere of Dreaming American. Embark on an adventure inside USU's elegant Morgan Theater and the historically intimate Kane Lyric Theater to refresh and rejuvenate. Lyric Repertory Company's summer season is happening now through July 17th. Purchase single show tickets or season flex passes at lyricrep.org.
That's lyricrep.org.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Columbus Travel and Princess Cruises. Starting this July, Alaska Cruises are back. Sail with Princess and get free drinks, free Wi-Fi, free prepaid gratuities, and for a limited time, up to $200 onboard credit, which is like free money to spend on your Alaska cruise. Call Columbus Travel, 800-373-3328 or online at columbusvacations.com. Thanks, Columbus.
Hi, this is Vicki Godfrey with Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local business and are proud to support the new Center Street Market in downtown Logan every Wednesday during the summer. Starting Wednesday, May 12th, the market opens at 8 a.m. and all of the merchants will be local businesses from right here in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank invites everyone to the Center Street Market in downtown Logan. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Total joint surgeon Matt Olson at Intermountain Logan Regional Orthopedics is the only fellowship-trained total joint specialist in the Valley. At Logan Regional Orthopedics, we teach you everything you need to know to prepare for your surgery and then guide you as you get back to doing the things you love. For more information or to schedule a consultation with Dr. Olson, go to loganregional.org/total joint or call 435-716-2800.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, Tuesday edition. The Democratic primary to decide who's going to be the New York City mayor is going on. What happens, Buck?
Well, if we get a Democrat here who's actually reasonably strong on backing law enforcement, it could be the beginning of the end of the defund the police narrative as something so important to Democrats. Could have big ramifications across the country, too. We'll get into that and more in the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Wrapping up today's show with something not at all related to wildfire. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could call this a wildfire of sorts that the Supreme Court has ignited today. Stealing a topic from our friends over there at the Full Court Press. I can see them through the window right now. Ooh, Ajay has a very serious look on his face.
That's a real high-vis shirt he has on,
wonder
too.
what Eric's saying on the show. Anyway, so stealing a topic from Full Court Press over there on the fan in the studio next door for our show today, because it's got so many potential ripples in public policy and the future of athletics at universities in general, and of course the future of college sports and college athletes. The Supreme Court handed down now this was a unanimous decision, but I would say this is a unanimous decision with a lot of asterisks. A lot. There was the footnote. If this was printed, the footnotes alone probably larger than the decision itself. There's a reason for that. The court recognizing the immediate impact of this unanimous decision. The official title of this case, National Collegiate Athletic Association v. Alston. And it is 7 years old at this point. It was filed by student athletes, members of the NCAA's Elite Football Bowl subdivision, and representatives, former players from men's and women Division I basketball. So, I mean, this was the elite of the NCAA 7 years ago, filed this suit. And what they're challenging were the rules enforced by the NCAA throughout this period of time and before, that basically it was very strict limits on athlete compensation. Athletes have always been able to like scholarships, for example, that covered tuition, room, board. They could also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, college athletes could receive, I'm not even going to guess at the dollar amount. I know they could get a cash stipend, like to cover food or travel expenses that related to a game.
Certain things.
But I don't even know what the dollar amount on that was. Perks like meals, medical care that would sometimes be donated to teams in certain locations for sports-related injuries, things like that. Great advertising for a doctor, right, to treat a local college athlete hero. So those types of things have always been legal, but no salaries at all. And so the lawsuit was basically saying the lawsuit wanted to go further. The lawsuit wanted to get a ruling on whether or not it was legal for athletes to make money, period, as like a salary. But over the course of the 7 years and through several lower courts, a lot of this changed. Two lower courts held that some, but not all, of the NCAA's restrictions on athlete compensation were unconstitutional. Whereas the Supreme Court, in this unanimous decision, summarized that lower court decisions lifted, quote, rules that limit scholarships or graduate or vocational school payments for academic tutoring or paid post-eligibility or internships. Basically, they saying that the lower court decisions were correct, that you can't. Basically, what this decision says today is that universities are going to have to hash this stuff out. It's not going to be enough to just refuse and say no. they're going to have to work out policies of compensation anytime they're making money off of an athlete. And the reason for this actually goes back to a previous case in 1984, NCAA v. Board of Regents. That's one of the cases cited today. And the court also hinted that the NCAA might suffer a more significant loss in the court in the future. They did a bit of baby splitting in this ruling, but in the majority opinion, which was unanimous, they said this is something the court will have to hear again, saying the NCAA's business model flatly illegal. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page.